All right, peeps, for another dating relationship Q&A. Good stuff coming up today. Sorry, guys. As usual, big day, big day. I was actually having my monthly call with the one and only Paul Publisher, astrology genius, predicting the date of my daughter's birth. We'll see. We'll see. Paul and I putting a lot of chips in all these days, putting chips in. But yeah, let me see here. Let me just retweet this. So we got the Q&A today. Back to COVID Cabal probably tomorrow. We got the dating relationship Q&A. But first, we've got a really fun wine, guys. A very fun wine for us to be checking out here. Sardinia. All right, so we finished Sicily. Took us a couple tastings, but we finished Sicily. And so Sardinia, a little. I did see the Obama arrest thing, guys. I did see that. Who knows? Certainly uncanny with Biden being taken into custody. But we'll talk about that tomorrow. I'm sure we got a lot more big stuff coming on with that stuff. So, Sardinia. So Sardinia was not historically a big place for wine. I want to emphasize, of course, people, that wine is grown all over the Mediterranean. So it's not as if there wasn't wine here. It's just that it wasn't a predominant wine producing region. Now, most of the wine was produced in this area in the southwest, right? Or this area right here. This is a flatter area. Sardinia, like Corsica to the north, is very rocky in the northern part. As you get towards the south, it flattens out a little bit. So, the story with Sardinian wine. You have to kind of understand a little bit of the story of Sardinia. So, I'm not going to go into the full story of it. But Sardinia was ruled by the Kingdom of Aragon. And so a lot of Spanish grapes got moved into this territory. There's also a period of history, and I didn't prep for this, but as I recall, there was the Kingdom of Sardinia, and the Kingdom of Sardinia was basically Liguria, so that would be northwestern coast of Italy, and Sardinia. And so what you have on Sardinia is you have grapes that came from that location, kind of the south of France, this northwest, part of Italy on the coastal regions, and you have grapes coming from Spain. There's a lot of really cool wine in Sardinia. If you get there domestically, they have this very, very old vine, Carignan, which is a grape that is normally not liked very much. It's southern France and Spain, and the reason why it's not liked a lot is because it's a very high production. So the way to put it is that it produces a lot of fruit. Okay, and you'd think, well, that's great. Wouldn't you want a vine to produce a lot of fruit? But guys, remember, the quality of the wine goes down the more fruit the vine produces. So if you're trying to transition from bulk wine to high quality wine, which the market demands now, and when I say high quality, I don't mean like elite, but I mean it used to be like put it in a jug, right? Like bottom of the barrels kind of stuff. Basic, super basic. Moving it up a tier to like export quality stuff, they can't do that. So they started to tear up a lot of Carignan, for instance, in southern France. But Carignan is a very, very good grape when it's old. When the vine has had time, and what happens when a vine gets older is, like, hopefully a person, it matures with age. And so what you get is less fruit production and very, very sophisticated, very concentrated fruit. And so old vine Carignan is actually really good stuff. Actually really good stuff. And Sardinia has a lot of this. Now, another little interesting thing about Sardinia is there is an area in Sardinia. It's actually right over here near Nuoro. And they have a very, very subtype of grape here. And of like a specific clone, right? Like a local variety, a local variant. And what was interesting is that there was research being done there because they had a very unusual number of centenarians. And my guess would be part of it had to do with the altitude, right? But one of the things that they found out is that the local wine had a very, very high number of phenolics. Very, very high number of phenolics. So maybe that has something to do with it, right? Maybe that had something to do with it. Guys, don't worry about that COVID stuff. Don't worry about the COVID cabal stuff. Bros are going to get people are going to get upset about these little swings that happen. They're going to learn, guys. 2 more weeks. They're going to learn. We'll talk about that tomorrow. They're going to learn. They're going to learn. Don't you worry. So, moving on to the wine we have here, we got a Vermentino, and I like this. This is the white grape of Sardinia. Okay, Vermentino is an Italian grape, very very common among the northwestern part of Italy, like we said, right? The part that's Liguria. And Canonal de Sardinia. Now, Canonal, this is like the new favorite. Everybody's loving Canonal. They want to get Canonal. And I'm going to do a tasting with Canonal in the future, and I'll tell you why. Because Canonal, guys, Canonal is just Grenache. That's all it is. It's Grenache. Grenache, Garnacha. Same grape. Same grape, different name. So it's kind of interesting. Now, the thing about it that's very interesting is that it actually, I've felt like it tastes a bit different. It has some of that rustic Italian taste. We're going to try it tonight, though. So let's do the Vermentino first. See, that's nice. Vermentinos can sometimes be a bit too bright, a bit too big. This almost has like a little bit of a honey aftertaste to it, though. It's very smooth. You get some of that brightness, but it's not like, remember we had the Albarino. Remember we had, what do we have? What was the other one that was like that? Albarino was the main one. Albarino was the main one, but I think that even with one of the ones we had in Sicily, it was like that. Do I date goats? It's good. It's good. It actually, the finish is a little flat. I have to tell you guys that. The finish is a little flat. This isn't the elite Vermentino that you can get in Sardinia. That's a separate appellation. It's good, though. Let's try the Canonal. See, I have to admit my expectations are high because I've been memed into loving Canonal just like everybody. It's the new meme in Italian wine. Okay, so this Canonal does not have that sort of weird leatheriness that you get distinctly in a lot of Italian wines. It doesn't have it. This actually tastes like a Grenache, which is what it is. And it's great. It's great. Grenaches get really good alcohol content. They often have a little bit of an issue with acidity, and you can feel it with this. It unless you can get higher elevation, the acidity can be, so this has acidity, but it could probably do a little bit more because the alcohol is a little flabby, just like a little flabby. Okay, just got some of that leatheriness. So just a little bit. It's interesting because that's what you get from Italian wines. Italian reds, I don't know why, but you don't get in other countries. And it seems to be consistent despite the fact that, we have a clone of the same varietal that would be found in France. I think, what I think it is? I'm going to make one last little point here. I think that it has to do with the winemaker in part. I think it has to do with the style of winemaking, would be my guess. Style of winemaking. Maybe something to do with the soil too, but something with, but they're big countries. The only exception to this is actually Barolo in the Northwest, and everyone says that that's really more like France. So anyway, let's get into the questions. We got a lot of questions today. We got lots and lots of questions. Oh no. Okay, one second here. All right. All right, guys. First question. I've been talking with a girl. This girl has said numerous times that she likes me, and from third sources, it was genuine. We've been talking. She was spicing things up, and I retorted with the same or more spiciness. This is shaping up like one of those games women play. We've met twice. The first time, things went as smooth as possible. I even let her borrow my coat. And today, we even kissed. After we returned to our home, she texted me by saying, "Today I realized that I don't know how I feel about you. Like, I don't know if you like me, but I don't know." This is all in Spanish. I'm trying to translate it. "I'm confused. I don't know what I want. And today we even kissed." He translated for me. Okay, so I already knew the answer. See, my Spanish is still pretty good, guys. From living in Buenos Aires, I can read it. I had a client. He's been living in Costa Rica, and he was sending me some Spanish texts between him and this girl. And I haven't spoken Spanish in a decade. And now, learning Polish and learning and really valuing French. It's so buried down there. I can't speak it to save my life. I get words from other languages, but I can still read it, which is pretty cool. That means it's there somewhere. So to which I answer, you could be afraid to be in a couple. You could be frightened about compromise. I'm not like what you thought I would be. There could be a lot of things happening. You can maybe know it deep inside of you, but you can't accept it. I could, I'm just going, I'm not going to read all this stuff, but he's basically telling, you know, he's saying he appreciates trust. Don't fail my trust. Just tell me everything you're feeling. And she said, maybe, you could be afraid to, and, well, so it's like, can you tell me could you help me by telling me what I did right and what I did wrong? Okay, well, I don't really know. All right, there's a lot of stuff going on here. This is kind of complicated. This is kind of complicated. I probably should have polished this one up before even mentioning it because it's a little messy. The basic thing here, okay, is that him and this girl are playing a game. You and this girl are playing a game with each other. And the issue here is that you are continuing to play the game, continuing to push to try to get her to engage with you. Okay, continuing to push to try to get her to engage with you. She says maybe, and then she kind of like pulls back. It doesn't matter. Like, you need to pull back more from her. You're sort of falling. I can feel it in the interaction. You're falling in a little bit with trying to game her into wanting to do something with you. Whereas what she really needs is to feel your boundaries. She needs to feel you lean out when she doesn't meet your standards, right? She's gonna like play games. She's gonna fuck around. You tell her how you tell her kind of what you expect, what you want, and if she kind of like leans out from that and says maybe, and that's it. I can guarantee you, if you do that to a girl, because she's being coy, she's gonna flip back towards you. She's gonna flip back towards you. Now, I'm sure you guys are both young. She sounds like a very young Hispanic girl, and God knows I dated those ones down in Buenos Aires. So I know all about this shit. I know about the games. There's probably no better place for you to cut your cloth learning about feminine games than in Argentina. I mean, I got some Argentine followers. They know what I'm talking about here. These girls know how to play the game. They love to play the game. Um, so the one thing that fascinates them to no end. You can get down in the trenches with them and play that shit. But the one thing that they don't understand the gringo. They don't understand the gringo, and the gringo not falling for that bullshit. Like, the one thing I'm going to tell you guys a really quick story here. Just one of the things in Argentina that was so baffling. There's a period of time after a certain, I was single for a while in Argentina, and then towards the tail end, guys, I committed to a girl who I dated in the States back in college. We had been talking a little bit. We had definitely fallen in love at the end of college, but I wouldn't get together with her because I was moving to Argentina. And so we talked a little bit while I was down there. I was dating other girls. And then when she came down and she visited me, well, I got lost in the sauce, so to speak. Got lost in the sauce. And so, but the thing is, like, even though I was, a bit of I was certainly playing the field, and I was known for doing that. Um, I have to say that I never cheated. Never cheated. Now, there's a story. I did get close once, and I can tell that story another time. I also involved this girl that involved Argentina. Got close once. I didn't do it though. But, but, one of the things that was so fascinating for me is that when I was in Argentina in the beginning, all the girls, all they wanted to know is why I didn't have a girlfriend. And I said, well, I don't really feel like I want to be in a relationship right now. Like, I want to be single. And they're like, no, why don't you have a girlfriend? Why don't you have a girlfriend? And then when this girl came down and she was effectively my girlfriend then, it was like, why aren't you cheating with her? Why aren't you cheating on her? They actually asked why I wasn't cheating on her. They actually asked that, why I wasn't cheating on her. When she was there at the party. Like, she was in another room, and they would try to kiss me and be like, why are you, like, doing this? You know, like, what I'm trying to say here is that basically their sort of vibe there was everybody should be in a relationship and everybody should cheat in a relationship. And you wonder why Argentina has the highest number of psychologists per capita in the world. Crazy, crazy stuff. So anyway, they didn't understand the gringo who was like, yeah, I'm single. When I'm in a relationship, I'm in a relationship. It's like non-negotiable. Oh, well. Anyway, next question. I'm 18. Been hooking up with this girl for a year. I took her virginity. Only boys she's had sex with. She's the horniest girl I've ever met, and I want to get into kinky sex, but I'm not sure where to start with, as I have no experience with it either. But I want to show her a good time. Thoughts? Okay. Oh, I got a lot of thoughts. This is interesting. This is a fun one. Well, first, congrats. Look, the first thing, hooking up with her for a year. Okay, let's see. Well, congrats on finding a very horny girl who wants to fuck you and wants to do all sorts of kinky shit with you. That's great. I'm happy. That's good stuff. Okay. When we talk about kinky sex, it's good to have an idea of what are we talking about here? Because to some people, kinky sex is, handcuffs or, blindfold. Some people, kinky sex is, wearing latex and being tied to a bed with a simian or whatever, like some sort of dildo thruster. There's all sorts of sick shit. There's different levels of kinky. I think that the really important thing here is do not be afraid to push the envelope with her. And some people are Hunter Biden, right? Some people are Hunter Biden. Don't be afraid to push the envelope with her, but work your way gradually. So what's the level of, for instance, aggression you're bringing to the bedroom right now? Like, obviously, from the sounds of this girl, she likes to be choked. I want to make a note here, by the way, guys. Not all girls like to be choked. Okay, not all girls like to be choked. It's like a meme. The manosphere spreads it around. There are many girls who like to be choked. Not all girls like to be choked. Do not become a meme. Interact with the girl who you're interacting with. It's not but this girl obviously does. Because she's really going down that path. She's really going down that pathway right now. Or she probably does. High likelihood. Okay. Continue to ramp up this. I would ramp up the psychological stuff, because it's honestly the psychological aspects with a woman that allow you to do more actual kinky things. If you fall into the situation where she wants to do kinky stuff, and so you just start to, get a toy or whatever, or you start to do more kinky things, what actually ends up happening is that her kinkiness moves on from you, because you get too absorbed in her kinkiness and not enough in you directing the relationship on a sexual level. She'll stop looking at you as a sexual leader in the relationship, and she'll just start looking at you as a horny person. So it can be fun for a little bit, but then she'll move on to frankly, I'm going to be honest, this girl's she might go down a pretty rough path, because she's very young to be going crazy with this stuff. I'm curious about her background, but whatever. You want to maintain that position. So in a certain sense, the answer to the question is, what do you want to do? Where do you want to take it? And if you're talking about, I don't know your level of experience. I don't know, have you mastered the art? Riv, you can talk to Riv about this. Have you mastered the art of face fucking, right? And then, Riv would hate it, but have you mastered the art of giving a girl head, right? Going down a girl. and what kind of stuff turns you on. I mean, this stuff is really, it's important for me to understand where you're at, because that depends on where you're going to go. But I would not just jump to the finish line. I would not jump out of your element. She wants you to lead first and foremost. So take it from there. Go down that direction. But I can tell you very clearly, she wants to be dominated and she wants to be probably a little degraded. So you're going to have to explore those areas if you want to get kinky. Kinkiness almost always involves some element of degradation, which is why I think it's a slippery slope, for the record, guys. I think it's a slippery slope. I'm not saying that you should be repressed about any of this stuff. I think you have to, but it's a slippery slope. It has to be said. People who go way too crazy with their kinks have a hard time coming back from it. So just be careful about that. But I don't actually, don't worry about it. But do what you want to do. Go where you feel like you want to go with it. And yeah, make sure you maintain a dominant frame. Be intentional, right, throughout the process. If you're dominant, I mean, honestly, very often when a girl wants to get kinky, what she's looking for is more dominance. To a certain point, then she might flip and want to be dominant in a situation. But that's like advanced stuff. Focus on the intermediate, which is going from sort of fake dominance to like getting really structurally dominant. And then when you get to the advanced stage, then there's all sorts of different things that you can play with. Okay, next one. Hi, Pat. Thanks for all your recent work with the election, etc. I wanted to reach out and ask you about your views on psychology and alchemy. First, this doesn't relate either COVID or dating stuff, so yeah, blah, blah. I told him I'd do it in this one. Okay, specifically, what I wanted to ask was about reconciling psychology and alchemy, as I have seen you touch on both on Twitter and in your periscopes. You mentioned in regards to Stoicism that its focus on changing your negative thoughts rather than feeling them leads to repression and is not a useful action to take. Alchemy seeks to make a similar mistake in this way, focusing on positive thinking and changing negative thoughts into positive ones. You've commented on Trump using alchemy effectively to deal with negativity and change it into positive action. But how does that not result in repression that Stoicism and CBT psychology likely causes when it focuses on changing your thoughts? So we've got a very smart person here, right? He's asking very good questions. I don't want to overcomplicate this though for the people. I mean, honestly, this is a really good question, and it's a question that I'll often have with coaching clients to try to dig into. But I don't want to get too crazy into it. I don't want to get too pedantic into it. To make the point about psychology and alchemy, psychology is dealing with things very much on a 4D level. Alchemy is dealing with things more on an energetic level, okay, which you would maybe say as starts to move in the 5D. There's different ways that you can define these things. Truth exists on multiple levels. So let me give you an example of this. Let's say as a child, you were raped. Okay, I'm going to give an extreme example because that'll make it clear. As a child, you were raped. Okay, and so what happens? What sort of things does that person have to deal with? Well, that person has to deal with the physical violation. Okay, and so even if the body repairs, maybe the body wasn't even seriously damaged in the act. I know this is graphic, guys, but it's necessary for the explanation. That there's an energetic damage that occurs to that area, okay, of the body. And so if you were to go to some energy worker or a cranial sacral person or somebody who deals with moving energy out of the body, they're going to detect that area, that there's a tightness there, that there's some sort of energetic response, and that energy needs to be cleared. So you could say on the physiological level that there is some damage that was accrued to that location. Maybe there was actually physical damage and that there's a physical representation of that. Then you also have on the psychological, you have on a pattern level that gets created that you don't trust certain people. And then you have the deeper psychology where you go into the beliefs, okay? And then you have on the energetic side of things, right? And how it affects your entire energetic field. And then you have the idea that that could have created that damaging to your energy could have created a portal where a demon or something could have entered. Okay. And so then you're being attacked and haunted by a demon. And so an individual will have pain in that area physically, and they're going to have psychological issues and trust issues and all sorts of things that are somewhat conscious and somewhat unconscious. And then they're also going to have some sort of entity attack on them. And their field might be damaged in that area, and that other things can enter and attack them from that. So you would have to address it on every single level. If you addressed it on every level, you'd maximize chances of healing, which is why, like, maybe in a lot of basic coaches will attack it on one level. And if you can, the more levels you can attack something on, the higher chance that you have of resolving the issue. So I will talk a little bit about my things on Stoicism. I don't like Stoicism, not because I don't see the value in it. I think that Stoicism, at its best, is a channels masculine elements of the samurai and the knights and people who were calm in the face of death. They accepted death. Okay. But I don't believe that the idea here is to accept death without feeling. I think that you feel into your death, and that's what actually the knights and everybody would do. That they would imagine they really surrendered to their death. It wasn't simply that. It wasn't like a nihilism. I think that Stoicism tends to move towards these directions of, I'm not going to feel. Feeling doesn't matter. And I'll give you a great example of why this is. You want to see the practitioner of these things. What happens to them? Marcus Aurelius was the famous Stoic with Meditations. And Marcus Aurelius was cucked. Okay. Now you can make some arguments here for a second that his, that these were things made up by his enemies, that his wife really wasn't a whore who slept with half of Rome. You can make those arguments, but there's a couple of reasons to indicate that actually it was true. And one is that he was always on campaign away from Rome. Okay. It's like denial, don't want to be around the situation. Second of all, his son was a fucking psycho and hated everybody. Commonus, right? You have the Gladiator movie, which, creates a false history around this, that there was somebody, playing Russell Crowe or whatever. But the point was true that you had these 5 good emperors in Rome, and each of them selected their successor. They adopted their successor to make sure that they were, people who were fit to lead. And Marcus Aurelius didn't do that. So you could also say that Marcus Aurelius, even though he was, a good general, whatever, a good emperor in a lot of senses, he did not stop his son from becoming heir to the throne, and his son completely destroyed Rome. I mean, Rome survived its early psychos because it was so much at its zenith. Like a young man can afford to make mistakes, but when you start to get in the middle age and you start to make stupid decisions, Commodus set off like a pretty much permanent catastrophe in the Roman Empire. You had occasional glimpses of hope, but it was pretty much a downward descent from Marcus Aurelius. And so it's like, this guy's a Stoic. We should be Stoics like Marcus Aurelius. Well, the way that Marcus Aurelius' his son responded to things, maybe it was his son, but certainly he acted like any man whose mother was a whore would act. That's how they act. They hate people. They have a real anger towards other people. And it makes sense. And I think that, frankly, the movie, even though they didn't portray, I believe it was Lydia, as a whore, they did portray the psychology in many ways of Commodus correctly. They did do that correctly. So I'm not a big fan of Stoicism. I think Stoicism is usually repression. I do think that you should be calm in the face of death, but I think that true calm, calm can come from blocking it out, or calm can come from actually of dealing with it. So maybe some Stoics are telling me I'm not reading this correctly, and that's not how Stoicism is. But I think that Marcus Aurelius was a space cadet. I think he was a space cadet. I think he was an avoidant behavior person from what we can glean from the histories, right? So we're really a little off topic here, but it's okay. The guy knew this, and it's a good question. Alchemy is about transformation of energy. So speaking specifically with Trump will take people's energy from a crowd, he'll take tension, and he'll transmute that, and he'll move it in a positive direction. And so you have to be able to when we talk about him as an alchemist, what we're talking about is that he is capable of manipulating energy towards his own means. And that's the whole thing. He will create a lot of energy, or he will encourage other people to create energy. And then he will redirect it. But here's the thing. If he was left-hand path, he would take that energy and he would make it all about him. Yeah, he takes McDonald's, right? It's the Big Macs, guys. It's the Big Macs. You just got to eat Big Macs, all right? Big Macs, Diet Coke. Seriously, he has like 3 hours of sleep every night and just has a Big Mac. That's how he does it. But he moves the energy from the group, and he moves it towards a bigger purpose, towards bigger aims. And so as a man, you can do the same stuff in a relationship. And this is how I'm going to tie it back to our theme here, which is dating and relationships, which is that as a man in a relationship, I say this all the time, but this is another piece to add to it. It's very, very good. Like, I don't have a problem with fights. I think fights are very constructive. I do think that some relationships are different than others. But fights are good. Fights, as long as you're doing something with the energy from the fights. Fights that are just like, you fight with each other and then the energy goes inward and nothing happens. Okay, that's not good. That's not healthy. Or you just throw it at each other and no one alchemizes it. But if you alchemize energy from a fight, you actually can bring the relationship to a higher level. You can take that tension and you can turn it into intimacy, into higher things. Some dysfunctional relationships, like in Argentina, do this on a low level where they get addicted to drama. That eventually burns you out, though, because you're not moving anywhere. So it's like they know how to harness the other person's energy, but then towards something, but not towards a bigger goal. But if you can harness that energy and you can move the relationship to a different level, it's incredible. It's incredible how things can go. So yeah, I don't know if that directly answered the question, but I think we did a good job, right? I think we spouted some pretty good knowledge. So he's a smart guy. I think he'll figure out the rest. I can ask a follow-up if he wants to ask a follow-up. All right. Next one here. Let's see what we got next. Okay, all right. This is a long one. I'm going to go through it. So he's known this girl for a while, but they never did anything but exchange pleasantries. But when he saw her recently, he felt attracted to her, so they exchanged contacts, started talking over the phone. Wanted to get married to her, so wanted to check out some red flags. She doesn't post any sexually suggestive photos, not much of an attention freak. Only posts photos of herself and her family, nothing narcissistic, good relationship with her father. She can express herself well in conversations, not argumentative. They speak on the phone at length, and they never run out of things to say, but he always ends the conversation because he has to do something else. They were going to hang out sometime, wanted to tell her when he saw her, but, he wanted to declare his intentions to her. But then she said she had a boyfriend, didn't want to double date. I swear I answered this before. And she asked if I was in a relationship. I swear I answered this before. I mean, basically, since then we've spoken once and chatted once. The big thing here is, what's going on. I want to have a chance with her. But he sent an update here. So I'm going to give the full thing because I swear I answered this before. He said I didn't, but I swear I answered this before. But there's an update here. He stayed laid back, hasn't taken any future steps. He says, I don't call and chat with her now. I expect that's a fast lane towards the friend zone. I do approach other women. I don't have the desire really to escalate beyond getting their contact. Part of me still wants her. And I struggle with the mindset that these kind of women are hard to come by. Okay, guys. So I did answer this before. I'm certain I did. because you know, I know I remember the big thing here, which is that he was talking to her, saw her as a very high level girl. She had another guy in the picture, right? She had another guy in the picture. Um, they were talking on the phone, and then turns out she's in a relationship with somebody else. Doesn't want to double date. If when there are two ways that you can play this, two ways you can play this. If you really, really, really feel like there's a deep connection, then you can continue to kind of be friends with her, and you can continue to see her. But you have to make sure that when you see her, that things are really, really positive. That things are really, really positive, and that they're infrequent. It's just like once a month, once every 3 weeks, once a month. You'll hang out, and it's an incredible time. And then you have to just simply, you know, you tease and you flirt with her, but you don't make a move. And you allow that momentum to pull her away from her current relationship. That's one way you can do this. I'm not against you people doing that if they have a really strong feeling about the relationship, and if they know that the relationship that she's in is not one that's going to go anywhere. Okay, because sometimes girls will get confused. You know, I had my first girlfriend, and I had a very strong chemistry. Had very strong chemistry, and we were even we had broken up, and then we were kind of back together, just kind of like hooking up. I mean, like making out. You know, this was early high school, and then she had a boyfriend. Then this guy who she had a crush on for a while came back into the picture. Like, see, I love the Argentines though. Argentina's a bunch of Italians that speak Spanish, think they're English, and act like they're French. It's like ideal country. It's an amazing place. No, only negative thing about Argentina: women are beautiful. It's got very European culture. It's an awesome place. Only thing that's negative in Argentina is just like completely like destructive government. I mean, the country is on such a downward spiral in how it's run. Hopefully that'll change. I think it'll change as the rest of the world changes. But anyway, just to get back to this little story here, I played it cool because I knew that this. I know you're joking. This guy, I knew that he wasn't really competition. I knew I'd win in the end. I don't know how much you know about this girl's dynamic with her boyfriend, but I can tell you that if she's disappeared from the picture, she said, "I don't want to double date." It doesn't seem like she's leaving a big door open, and it seems like she was being coy. She was playing some games. I really recommend the second option, which is don't waste your time on girls who aren't going to give you their time, who aren't going to give you what they want. It's just a very bad mindset. Like with my first girlfriend, I had some, even at that very young age, knowing nothing, I had like 5D certainty. Like I knew that we were supposed to be together. Okay, I knew that. I knew that she was attracted to me and she wasn't attracted to him. I knew it with full certainty. And I realize now, actually, I never even put it in these words before because I didn't have any awareness of game. I just simply had 5D on me that like we were supposed to be together at that time of my life. And so unless you have that 5D, and you have to be very, very careful because a lot of people will say it's 5D, but it's actually just obsessiveness. It's not reciprocated. I had a very clear awareness of what our energy between us was. Okay. Which is why when I told her, you have to break up with him or we can't see each other anymore, she broke up with him immediately after that phone call. And then we went out the next day for the next 3 years, almost 2.5 years. So this situation here, this girl is not she's playing games with you, right? Good girls play games too. Good girls play games too. I'm not saying that she's like an evil person or anything like that, but she knew that, you know, talking on the phone with you for a while she was dating another guy. It's one of these things like, oh, well, you know, I don't want to double date. It's like, well, you were double dating. All right. Sorry, you were double dating. And you knew that. You knew that. It's like a guy fucking another girl and saying, oh, well, we weren't committed. It's the same thing, different side. So take her off the pedestal. She's not that great, or whatever. She's not that great to you. You know, she is dealing. She's interested in this other guy, and she's into that, and she liked the attention, and she liked to play with you. Um, the whole scarcity stuff. You know, women like this, women I like are hard to come by. I'm just looking at this stuff. The thing is, you're already in the friend zone. That's the thing. It already feels like you're in the friend zone. You could try option one, but it already feels like you're in the friend zone. Because if she had some interest, she would reach out. It would be something very subtle, like, "Oh, hey, I saw this stuff." You know, she'd give you a sign that she wants you in the picture. But if you haven't talked to her for weeks and she said nothing, then she just doesn't. She doesn't really care. I had to say it, but she doesn't really care that much. It didn't. It wasn't the same thing for her that it was for you. You got to pull back. You got to pull back, brother. You got to pull back. But I think that the biggest thing that I can tell you, because I know you mentioned there's other girls in the picture, but you don't really have a lot of interest in doing it. You know, you're interested in this girl, and you can't get it out of your mind. This is the big thing I want to tell you. Okay, this is not like a client call. We're not doing deep work right now. I just want to tell you that girl was not that great. She wasn't that great. Wasn't great. Wasn't awesome person. Wasn't a big loss. And what you're losing here is the fantasy projection. It's the fantasy that you had of this girl and what she was going to represent for you. The fantasy of that girl, that's what you care about, not the girl. And that's why a regular girl doesn't mean anything to you, because you haven't projected your fantasy onto her. So the real question here is, why do you have the fantasy? You got to deal with that. Again, I can't deal with that on this call, but that's this periscope. I can't, So, but it's going to be fine, man. Just be aware of the fantasies. Even if you feel them, be aware of them, because we all have them. They're normal in the early stages of the work. A fantasy is a projection of our unconscious. Thoughts on the phrase, "I'm not like other girls"? It means usually she does anal. That's what it usually means. She does anal on the first date. Usually it means she does anal on the first date. No, I mean, it's it's usually, what it means. Come on, you guys know what it means. "I'm not like other girls. I don't usually do this." Is like game 101, right? Any girl says that, you're gonna fuck her that night. Any girl says it, you're gonna fuck her that night. All right, next one. "Thank you, man. I was going to type a long essay, but don't want to take up a lot of your time. Basically, can you give me the TLDR on dating single moms? Summary: I'm 28. She's 26 and gorgeous, smart, feminine, modest, owns a biz, financially independent. She has a 3-year-old daughter. So far, going well. She's in love with me, but I feel uneasy about the situation committing further because I've heard the horror stories and stereotypes. I also feel like it might be some insecurity. I do think it would be a good growth experience, but if I also know I don't want to raise another man's child, it feels like a fool's errand that will just break our hearts and worse down the line." Yeah, this is the TLDR on single mothers is difficult. Okay, here's the thing. I love this. I love this stuff on. I love that. I love you guys giving me these questions. And I don't want you to go too crazy, because you guys have seen from some of these questions, this is the perfect length. You can go maybe a little longer in length, but this is the perfect length. When you get the questions get too much longer, they become a little bit too difficult to get together. But I do want to say that it's very difficult to answer a question like this without knowing the full background. Okay, how long have you been dating her? She's in love with you. How long have you been dating? Have you been dating for 3 months? She has a fantasy for you right now. Okay. Like, how long have you been dating? If you've been dating for much longer than that, you've been dating for a year or two, different story. Okay. Number one. Number two, How did she get the daughter? And what happened? We have a woman who is she's our birthing classes, right? My wife's pregnant. She's doing a couple weeks, and we've been doing these birth classes, and she has 6 kids. Okay, because we're doing natural birth. None of that fucking intervention bullshit. As little as we can manage. We would actually do a home birth if it wasn't for if it's our first birth. So we have a birthing center, but we would actually do a home birth because it's just like the intervention horror stories are so bad, and our baby's in perfect position. I mean, I know we could give birth to it, and we could get the bathtub filled up. It'll be fine. But this woman has 6 kids, okay? And we only found out midway through that her husband is actually her second husband. And she had 3 kids from her first marriage. And you might say to yourself, well, like, what the fuck, man? What the fuck did this guy do? Manosphere. Manosphere alert. Manosphere alert. We got a guy, we got a simp here going and dating a woman with 3 kids. Well, okay, she was a widow, first off. Second off, they also had been, I think, high school sweethearts, and then they'd gone separate ways. I don't know the full story. That sounds about right, that they dated in high school. And he came in the picture later on, and maybe he was a little bit. I'm not gonna try to overdiagnose their dynamic, but they got together, and they've since had 3 kids of their own together, and he adopted all those kids from the first marriage, and they are an incredibly happy, like, it's an incredible family, and he's a good man. He's a good man for doing it. And look, I'm not doing the whole, like, do the right thing, do the right thing. I'm just trying to say that, guys, that there's a context to all this stuff. There's a context to all these things. This woman wasn't, she wasn't a mess. It wasn't. So we have this, 26-year-old, gorgeous, smart, feminine woman with a 3-year-old girl. I have to say, there are alarm bells ringing because she sounds like she's very seductive. And I don't know what happened, but how did she end up with a 3-year-old kid? There's probably a lot of crazy beneath that hot, because you guys know that the more hot there is, the more crazy there is. As a general rule, the exceptions of this are girls that weren't hot when they were much younger, and they became hotter as they kind of got into their 20s. There are girls who are late bloomers, guys. There are girls. They're not the norm, but there are girls who are late bloomers. So it's going well. She's in love with you. I'm not saying dump her or anything. I'm just saying if she's in love with you and she's pushing for something big, you can explore this stuff a little bit longer, but you got to do some red flag checks. There's no reason to rush into this. Yeah, it could be an imposter alpha widow. There's a lot of things it could be. And so I'm not saying don't explore it. I'm just saying that you do need to be wary of it, and you need to get the full story. Maybe you know the full story, but if you only dated her a couple months, you don't know the full story. There's a lot of girls like, he was such an asshole, dad left. Be very wary of a very attractive woman who has a need for a man in her life. Be very wary of what that love looks like. I'll say that much. But I will say that single moms, as a general rule, yeah, she could be BPD, you don't know. Very often this is the situation. But yeah, for you in this situation with single moms, I think that's what I'm going to give you the general. I'm going to give you for your situation. I'm not going to talk about the general. It's too much stuff. Too much to talk about. All right, next question. By the way, guys, you got this like thunderstorm going on here. It's crazy. It's been crazy today. You don't usually get these things in the winter. You don't usually get them on a lunar eclipse. You don't usually get this stuff. I have an ex in which I ended a relationship with, but after 7 months, I still think about her. I don't know why, because she is not my dream girl, but her potential was just very high. Although she was 25 and liked to party a lot, I didn't. I still think about her and what if. After I ended it with her, 8 weeks later, she had a new boyfriend and started to post all kinds of love stories on Instagram, which she never did with me. So I blocked her, but still I sometimes wake up and think about her. I have trouble with letting it all go. I fucked 2 out of 3 girls. I guess that means 2 to 3, I don't know. 2/3 of a girl. I fucked 2/3 of a girl. And yes, it helps, but not that much, I have to say. So, let's see here. So, we have, you don't know you don't know why, okay. He doesn't know why he still thinks about her because she wasn't the dream girl. Okay. So, yeah, here's the thing. It sounds like, you know, as Walla Magic's saying here, all right? And also, like, seriously, like, he's completely right. You gotta do more with your time. You're spending too much it sounds like you're spending too much time, I'm not saying that you have to party a lot. I mean, I like to party, but not saying that partying a lot is the answer to your problems. But there's something to be said for, I don't know if you're spending a lot of time in your head and if with like the hobbies and things you do are very cerebral, then you probably want to get more engaged with the external world because it sounds like you're more of an introverted person and it sounds like you're more engaged with your internal world. And if you have a relationship with a girl, even if it's not super long, you might not really, want to be a part of what she's got going on, but it does seem, you are going to get pulled into the fact that after she's gone, you're going to feel like, oh, all that stuff that I really cared about, you know, she was doing something. She was doing something for you. My actual guess would be that this was like a very anima dynamic, that she was like your opposite and you were her opposite. Now, I don't want to tell you this to give you the wrong impression, but her getting a new boyfriend and immediately posting all these things like we're perfect together, we love each other, everything's amazing. Um, she's doing that to get back at you, okay, and to make herself feel better. Because one of the big signs is the more pictures you see of a couple, it's a universal rule. The more pictures you see of a couple, the more you know that their relationship is based on some sort of external signaling. I guess you could say signaling, but that they are trying to send the message that, oh yeah, I'm so happy, ha ha ha. They're trying to compensate for an internal lack in the relationship. So she starts doing all this stuff. She never did it with you because she was actually happy being with you, or you actually made her feel something. Okay, and this guy didn't do that. So she has to externalize it to get the social support for her relationship. It's a fucking psyop. Do you guys, as Jackson just said here, okay, I mean, most of you guys watch COVID cabal stuff, or at least you're familiar with what I do. The reason I can read that shit is because I understand women. I understand how this stuff works. When they're signaling overtly like this, it's a sign that they're not actually, there's nothing internal there. So I don't want to give you like this kind of false hope stuff. But she's not really into this guy. Okay, he's a rebound. Classic casebook, textbook rebound, textbook rebound. And you're probably thinking about her because you had an anima dynamic with her. And so you were very strongly drawn to each other, but also very unhappy together because you kept triggering each other's unconscious mind. So I don't know. You could try to get back with her. Probably not a good idea. But my guess is that you will be drawn back towards each other because it doesn't seem like you closed the chapter. So something's going to happen on its own that's going to put you in the same place. Something's going to happen, and you'll get the closure you're looking for. All right, let me see how many more questions I got here. I got a couple more. Fuck. Oh my god, I got so many more. I'm gonna have to do another one. I'm gonna keep going. Hey Pat, my girlfriend's struggling to understand the appeal of motherhood and femininity, but wants to. What sources would you direct her to, or what practices would you encourage? Well, it's very good. Thank you, Brian. It's very, very good that she is that she wants that. It's very good she wants that. It's very good she wants motherhood. It's very good she wants femininity in her life. I mean, the reality is that I once had a girl. This is live, yeah. It's live, but you can watch the replay. I know up in England, Brooding Sea, which I believe you're from Northern England. I know it's quite late, so no worries, no worries. So she wants to understand the appeal of motherhood femininity, but she doesn't know how to do it. I take it because she didn't have good models. So here's the thing. Here's the thing. I'm not going to be the person to teach her it. I know you're not asking for that. You're looking for sources. Here's why I'm having a hard time with the question. Because I do not believe I believe in curiosity. Okay, I believe in curiosity. And I'm willing to make the assumption that she is doing this from a position of valuing your leadership, and that she's offering this to you to find this stuff for her. I'm assuming that. I'm assuming that. But she's right now, and I know that women are not the best at this themselves compared to men. But if you want to learn something, if you want to grow into something, you look for it. That's it. You look for it. Okay? Let me tell you some things on my own journey. That's the thing. Like there's a couple. If there's a book that I really feel, or some person who I really feel is a good entry point, then I'll recommend it. No question. But I think generally speaking, people have to find their own path to their destination. There's going to be people that present themselves on the way who will help to get them to that point. But this is the whole problem with, like, what's your book, or what book can I read on this? If you listen to me talking, or if you have a certain theme that you're interested in, then go look and buy some stuff. When I got interested in energy, okay, when an energy worker cleared my chakras and I felt completely different, and then I immediately got under attack by demons the next night, that night, then I was like, "Oh shit." I was like, "Oh shit," Dex, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I'm happy to be here. But when that happened, I was like, "Oh shit, I'm gonna go into Amazon and I'm gonna put energy books on energy manipulation." And I looked at the reviews. I looked at top books. I looked at the reviews for the books. I read the reviews, and I bought books, and half of them I haven't read. I read a bunch of stupid shit. I was Wall of Magic. This was total serendipity. Okay, I went to get a massage. I was on a beach in Portugal. I went to get a massage, and this woman had like a tent set up there, total bootleg shit. And I got a massage, and I could tell at the end of the massage she was doing some energy work. I could feel her move some stuff, and I was very, like, early in my journey at that point. And so I told her, I was like, "What did you just do? You just moved some energy." And she said, "Oh yeah, you had a block here." She actually, guys, I have to tell you, I want to toot my own horn here, but she asked me if I was famous, because she said I had a very good field. I had a very strong field. They can butter you up, but she wasn't really the type to do that. I won't talk about other things, but I overheard some other conversations, and she wasn't the type to do that. She's quite honest. She's a very integrated woman. Really, like, incredible woman. So, yeah, so she did that stuff. The point here is that, whatever, that's a whole nother story. She, after that, I was like, I think she lives in Lisbon, but she was doing some part-time stuff in the south of Portugal for the summer season. I do think starting with meditation is a smart idea, but I gotta be honest, I don't meditate. I don't meditate at all. I never meditate. Maybe I would go further if I did. but I don't meditate. Yeah, I don't do it. I talk to myself, talk to God, right? I don't meditate. Anyway, she should be looking at books on motherhood and femininity. Um, she should be looking for that. She should be looking for women who show that kind of stuff. Women, just Google it and find it out. Do your own research. So, you guys want to find out what happened? What happened to me? Well, I got under demonic attack. I got tempted. I got offered a deal, which I didn't take, and figured out it was around that period that my marriage transformed. I don't want to tell the whole story right now, but my marriage transformed over that period. It went from being like at the edge of like divorce. It was like it was going to end or it was going to evolve, and it evolved. And I was happy with either option. And yeah, it was incredible. Beginning of an incredible journey. Beginning of a really incredible journey. So yeah, you got to be curious. You got to engage in the process. But I understand the intention was, do I know anything in particular? But I don't feel called to give you a strong answer on that. So, okay, Pat, what to do about a girl I have strong feelings for, like a deep intuitive sense. However, it doesn't seem like it's reciprocated, hence I have doubts. We kind of answered this earlier in a previous question, but I mean, why is it not reciprocated? What are you doing? All right. I'm going to springboard. I have a good springboard here. I'm going to check these comments first. I didn't promise the firstborn. Robin Lyle. Okay, so for the last question, Robin Lyle, femininity. Check that out. So, I want to make a little comment here about the difference between intuition and clear intuition and false intuition. So, I had somebody recently who is honestly a very energetically in tune person. Okay. They have a strong field. They're not like some sort of nobody, but they have a strong field, yet they're in fear consciousness. And they, they gave me some shit. They got, they see the impact I'm making, and but it scares them because they're in a false light program. Okay, they're in a false light program, and they want the same thing as me, but they see the opposite of reality occurring. Okay, they have a strong intuition. However, they have not done the inner work. Okay, they haven't done the inner work. They are frankly, mean well, right? Mean well, but are very self-absorbed. It's a very self-absorbed individual, very self-absorbed. Everything revolves around them. And they're very guilty and very dramatic and manipulative and lie a lot as a result of all this stuff. Okay. I've said this before, but I don't think I've said it very clearly, is that because, I think what I said as I tweeted some, spiritual account on Twitter, and they said something like, you can be, traumatized and still be a spiritual person. And I was like, yeah, you can be. And you can also have a fucking terrible way of being able to see the world, because your level of the power of your field determines the amount of light coming in. So you can actually get massive downloads, but if your window is cloudy and covered in grime and crap, then less light comes in, and also it gets directed in the wrong directions. You might have cleaned off part of the window. You might say, well, okay, it's light over here, but it's not over here. But that's not the truth. That's the truth, right? So the inner work is clean off your window. So even if you don't have as big of a field, if you clean off your window, you can still get very clear light transmissions. A lot of spiritual people think that because they get light coming through a dirty window, they think that they have seen things. So to pull it to this whole thing with the intuition, if it's not reciprocated, but you have an intuition, then what my conclusion here is that unless you have a very strong like faith, like 5D, like it's gonna work out, it's okay. Faith is very 5D, right? Which is why faith, hope, and love, key things in the New Testament. But if you have to check for that sort of fantasy projection onto the girl, and the fantasy projection is a sign of the dirty window. So to really answer the question on a tactical sense, I need more information because it's short. But on a general sense, you have to really ask yourself, how clean is your window into your intuition? You just can't see things properly if you haven't done the inner work, which is why, as we talk about in the COVID cabal, a lot of people are going to be waking up to a very fucked up reality because their windows are being cleaned by other people right now. It's like, what are you doing? You're messing up my window. It's like, no. Your window wasn't supposed to have that kind of light. Like the window is supposed to have this kind of light. You've been looking through something fake the entire time. So, best way to approach a woman at the gym, best opener, best closer. Look, I am probably not the person to ask for this. I'm not a gym rat. I'm in good shape. I'm not jacked. The gym was never where I picked up girls. I don't want to pretend I have massive expertise in this area when I don't have massive expertise in this area. So the question is relevant. Like, what's your level of fitness? If you're fit, then what you do is you start up a conversation you can start up like, oh, you're using this machine, or you could point out form. Gym has a real potential for high pre-selection, not simply in terms of how you look, but in terms of the fact that the gym, you're a regular there, you're an expert at fitness. So it's if you have that situation there, it can be quite easy because you should feel pretty confident. You could ask if she's using this weight, you can ask if she's using this, and then you could, you start up a conversation from that. There's a lot of intros. But I have to say, in a gym, it is important that you don't have to be like the most jack guy in the gym by any means, but the context of that environment, it's not enough to be like, solid looking and to be tall if you're trying to approach an attractive girl in a gym, because I'm not saying you can't do it at all. I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm just saying that you're going into an environment where things are a little bit more stacked against you because the context of the environment is demanding a different level of showing up. There are some guys who are, and I know many of them, not very bright people and spend all their time in the gym. And there's no problem with spending all your time in the gym if you really love that stuff and your business is associated with it, whatever. But there are a lot of people whose entire lives are the gym. And for these people, literally the gym is the best place for them to meet women because that's their domain of control. That's where they excel. I had different areas where I excelled. So part of figuring out demographics is this stuff. If the gym isn't your strong suit, I would start a conversation with her when she goes to the machine, if you can, when she's done with the machine or whatever. But yeah, I hope that you're in pretty solid shape, because otherwise it's going to be a tougher approach. Guys, I have more questions here. There's a lot though. There's still a good number of questions. I think I'm going to call it here. I'm going to answer the questions on the thread. I'm going to call it here. Yeah, I'm going to call it here. Yeah, I literally just got a text from my wife. It's dinner time because I can see what time it is. So we're going to pick up with the rest of the questions later in the week. But thank you guys, and I'll see you next time.